The compost accelerator gardeners swear by that nobody talks about. Supercharge your soil like a pro with this simple natural boost. If you've ever stood over your compost pile, poked it with a pitchfork and muttered, "Why is this taking forever?" You're not alone. Every gardener has faced that maddening lag between adding scraps to the heap and finally getting that black gold ready to use. Compost is the lifeblood of any thriving garden, but let's face it, it doesn't always move at our pace. Here at Soil and Crop Central, we believe in no-fuss, science-backed strategies that deliver real results. That's why we're about to share a little-known trick to turbocharge your compost pile. A natural accelerator so effective it can cut decomposition time in half and boost your compost's nutrient content. And no, it's not a store-bought powder or an overpriced magic mix. It's a simple DIY blend you can make at home with just a few ingredients, and it works like crazy. Let's dig right in. Before we unleash the secret weapon, it's worth understanding why composting can sometimes feel like watching paint dry. Compost depends on microbial activity, tiny organisms breaking down organic waste into humus. When conditions aren't right, too dry, too cold, too carbon-heavy, those microbes slow to a crawl. That means your peels, trimmings, and clippings just sit there, locked in limbo, giving you frustration instead of fertilizer. Even if you're turning the pile and balancing your greens and browns, you might still wait 3 to 6 months before the material is garden ready. And if you live in a cooler climate or don't have the perfect compost ratio, it can take even longer. Here's the weird trick that isn't so weird once you understand the science. A homemade nitrogen-rich compost tea made from active dry yeast sugar and water. That's right, yeast. The same stuff used to bake bread or brew beer is also a microbial powerhouse in the garden. Yeast is a single-celled fungus, and when introduced to your compost pile, it jump-starts the microbial breakdown process. Think of it as pouring high-octane fuel into your compost engine. The sugars in the mix serve as immediate food for the yeast, and once active, the yeast helps create a thriving environment where bacteria and fungi multiply rapidly, tearing through organic matter and heating up your pile almost overnight. Here's how to make this compost accelerating brew. It's cheap, fast, and wildly effective. So here's what you'll need. 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast, 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar, and 4 cups. That's about 1 liter of warm water. Make sure the water isn't hot, just around body temperature, like 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius. Mix the yeast and sugar into the warm water and give it a gentle stir. Then let that mixture sit for about 15 to 20 minutes until you see it start to foam. That foaming means the yeast is alive and kicking. Once it's nice and foamy, you're good to go. Now go ahead and pour the entire mix evenly over your compost pile. If your pile is on the larger side, just multiply the batch as needed. 1 liter is usually enough for about 1 cubic yard of compost. You'll want to apply this once every 2 weeks while your compost is actively breaking down. Oh, and remember to keep the pile moist. Think of a wrung-out sponge and turn it regularly to get oxygen in there, which really helps speed up decomposition. When you add yeast to your compost, you're not just tossing in random organisms. You're introducing Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is a really potent biological agent that boosts metabolic activity in the compost matrix. It creates a surge in carbon dioxide, increases heat production, and enhances the presence of thermophilic bacteria. Those are the same heat-loving microbes responsible for breaking down tough organic material like leaves, twigs, and stems. The sugar in the mixture acts as a fast-acting carbon source that stimulates the yeast, and the yeast's byproducts, things like enzymes and amino acids, provide a secondary boost for the resident compost microbes. The result? Well, you get a hot, fast-acting pile that starts to visibly steam within days and breaks down in weeks instead of months. Once you've made your yeast tea and applied it to your compost, just monitor the pile. Within 48 hours you should notice increased warmth, even in cooler weather. The compost will begin to shrink more rapidly as material breaks down. You might even notice a subtle sweet smell for a day or two as the yeast finishes its initial burst of activity. Don't worry, that fades quickly. Use a compost thermometer if you have one. Anything between 130 degrees and 160 degrees Fahrenheit means the trick is working perfectly. If you don't have a thermometer, just stick your hand near the center of the pile. It should feel warm to the touch. So, you'll want to water your pile when needed to keep it moist and turn it at least once a week. This, really ensures oxygen circulation and prevents anaerobic conditions which can lead to a stinky, slimy mess instead of beautiful, crumbly compost. Once you've tried the yeast tea, you'll see why so many gardeners call it a game changer. But you know, if you're serious about composting excellence, there's more you can do. Shred larger materials like corn stalks, paper, or stems before composting to increase surface area and make it easier for microbes to do their work. Always aim for a balanced carbon to nitrogen ratio, about 30:1. This usually means layering browns like dried leaves or cardboard with greens like veggie scraps or grass clippings. Avoid overloading your pile with one type of waste. Variety keeps the microbial ecosystem diverse and resilient. And if you're composting during cold months, try covering your pile with a tarp to retain heat. Combined with yeast tea, this can keep things cooking all winter long. Finally, consider creating 2 piles, one active, one maturing, so you always have a fresh batch brewing while another one finishes. It's kind of like the gardening version of meal prep. There you have it, the single, most overlooked, most effective way to kick your compost into high gear. This yeast-powered trick is easy, natural, and it works. Whether you're new to composting or a seasoned soil nerd, try this out and just watch your compost transform from sluggish to spectacular. If you found this tip helpful and want more practical gardening hacks that actually work, make sure to subscribe to Soil and Crop Central. Drop a comment below and let us know how your compost is coming along. And if you've got a garden buddy still waiting on their compost pile to break down, share this video with them. They'll thank you for it.